SOLIDWORKS Rx? Here's some contact details for myself and tech support in general. I'm located in our Glen Allen, Virginia office. You can email me at amiyaki@trimec.com. And of course, you can contact myself as well as the rest of the support team by calling 888-874-6324. Let's take a look at today's agenda. First, we're going to talk about what SOLIDWORKS Rx actually is. And then we're going to go into some of the features, starting with the diagnostics, system maintenance, problem capture, log files, safe modes, knowledge-based search links, and finally benchmark testing. So let's dive into the first topic here. What is SOLIDWORKS Rx? SOLIDWORKS Rx is a utility that can be used to help diagnose issues with your computer, perform SOLIDWORKS aware system maintenance, or capture and review problems. SOLIDWORKS Rx is installed alongside all SOLIDWORKS installations and can be found in your Start menu by going to All Programs, opening up the SOLIDWORKS version year folder, going to SOLIDWORKS Tools, and then selecting SOLIDWORKS Rx from the listing. In the image here at the right, you'll see SOLIDWORKS Rx 2015 being presented. SOLIDWORKS Rx has actually been installed alongside SOLIDWORKS since about 2006. There's been a few minor changes and some other functionality, and there was an older name used, but for all intents and purposes, it's been around for about 10 years now, whether many of you did or did not know that. And here's a quick image of what the SOLIDWORKS Rx interface looks like. It's pretty basic. There's a series of tabs at the top, as well as some hyperlinks along the side and at the bottom. And there's even descriptions of what everything can do. So it's pretty straightforward, but we're going to dive into these a little bit deeper, starting with diagnostics. So the diagnostics tab, which you can see selected here, it's the second tab over from the home tab. This gives you a lot of information about your computer and your general environment. It'll display graphics card and driver information, operating system information, RAM and hard drive usage info, as well as directory mapping and toolbox location data. So you can see here on the image that the system manufacturer and system model in this case aren't populated, but typically that would show a Dell or an HP computer, followed by the graphics card manufacturer model information and the current driver. If there's any type of a problem here, there'll be a diagnostic result given. You can see in red there's an X as well as the word diagnostic result with a brief description of the issue or the problem that the Rx diagnostic utility was able to uncover. In this case, it's only indicating that the graphics card is a supported graphics card. However, because the system manufacturer and system model are not being specified by the system BIOS, it's not able to determine if it was in fact a supported system. So it does refer you to going to a hyperlink to the SOLIDWORKS website, where you can then get more information about your video card specifically and the driver configuration that you should be using. I highly suggest that all users, especially for this particular section, go in and verify their graphics card information to ensure that you are getting the most out of your hardware and that what you have installed as far as the driver goes is compatible for your current release of SOLIDWORKS that you are using. It is a possibility that over the years an older computer with a supported card 2 years ago may have become obsolete and is no longer supported with the current iteration of SOLIDWORKS. So please check that regularly, especially before and after upgrading to a new release of SOLIDWORKS. Moving on to the next section, system maintenance. So this is the fourth tab over from the top of the toolbar there. And system maintenance will allow you to clean up several things on your computer, including the SOLIDWORKS backup directory, SOLIDWORKS and Windows temp directories, temporary internet files, as well as running the check disk utility or defragmenting your hard drive. So this is just general maintenance if things seem to be running slower than normal, or you have a feeling that maybe you've just got a lot of temp files bogging down your system, certainly feel free to open up the System Maintenance tab here and just start enabling all these checkboxes, and then all you have to do is hit Start Maintenance. It'll go through and show you a progress window as it goes through and cleans up all of the selected material. In most of your cases, running check disk and or Windows Defragmenter wouldn't be necessary if you have, let's say, a solid state hard drive where that functionality is now obsolete. So in this case, that's why those options are disabled, and some of these other items just have nothing in them, which is why they're not able to be selected in this image. But certainly, if those options are available, just go through and select all of the checkboxes available, hit Start Maintenance, let it do its thing. It should only take a few minutes, and that'll clean up any and all information that's no longer necessary in memory and in folder locations to allow SOLIDWORKS and your computer to run a little quicker and more smooth. All right, one of the main things that most people use SOLIDWORKS Rx for is problem captures. So the problem capture tab has been selected here in this image. And what this will allow you to do is basically record a video of any issue you're having within SOLIDWORKS. When you hit that record video button option, it's going to basically launch a new instance of SOLIDWORKS. It's going to give you some time to open up the files that you're experiencing an issue with, if it was a specific file that you were working in. And then there'll be basically a toolbar there with some VCR-esque icons to allow you to actually begin recording, pause recording, and stop it. And during the process, it's going to capture the actual video of what you're doing in SOLIDWORKS, so we can actually track what you're clicking on, what you're pointing to, how you're manipulating the model, as well as the user interface of the software. And then it's also going to package additional files. If you look to the right there on step 2 in the image, it does give you an overview of the files that are to be packaged with each SOLIDWORKS Rx zip file. So things ranging from system information to performance logs, file access logs, anything that's going on in the background of SOLIDWORKS or your computer in general is being tracked and logged within this utility. You do have the option to add more files to the zip if you need to manually. Things such as screenshots you may have taken, or a PDF, or a Word doc containing some written workflow or instructions that you might find helpful to the diagnostic process when you do package this up and send it over to us or to SOLIDWORKS for direct support. You do also have the option to add a description to your problem capture. So you'll see step 3 on the image will allow you to basically verbalize what's going on and put that into a written form and include it in the package. It will do so as basically an XML file, so you don't have to worry about any formatting or anything like that. You just type in it like it's a field on a website, and it will basically insert that information into the Rx capture. Once you have all of that information, again, you'd send it over to us, and we would be able to have a much better understanding of what might be going on your system or in your SOLIDWORKS files, again, if it was a modeling specific issue. But this is a great utility to help us solve a lot of crashing issues, issues where you're trying to add a feature and for some reason it's giving you an obscure error message and you're just not sure what to do. Rather than a lot of back and forth on sending some screenshots or send us your models, this will allow us to capture all of that, package it up nicely, and transmit it over to us. So let's talk a little bit more about log files. We mentioned them on the previous slide, but what exactly is in those log files? And if you see on the screen on the right, there's a whole listing of folders and files. And this is basically everything that gets packaged into a problem capture. Things like I mentioned before are the installation logs, the crash logs, application and system event logs, so those are basically Windows log files, file access logs, so it actually tracks basic pretty much every file that SOLIDWORKS is referencing or accessing while you're trying to open a model. That's especially helpful in cases where you're opening a large assembly and it crashes every single time. That file access log may help us pinpoint specifically which file is being accessed at that exact moment when it crashes, and help us pinpoint exactly where to start looking on our troubleshooting process. The system information file is included in here. That is just as it sounds. It is basically a cumulative file including all of the system information about your computer, operating system, hardware, device profiles, driver versions. We would be able to get a really good picture of exactly what your computer is, what's installed on it, what type of hardware you have plugged into it, and see if any of that might be causing an issue with SOLIDWORKS. And for your reference, all of these files are stored in a single folder on your computer. It's in the path specified here, which would be C users, your username, whatever name you're logged into currently, app data, roaming, and then SOLIDWORKS. The app data folder by default would be a hidden file, or I'm sorry, a hidden folder within Windows Explorer, and you may just need to enable that option within the folder options view settings to be able to actually access it and see that folder location. But if by chance SOLIDWORKS Rx is not able to run smoothly for you because you're having such a significant issue that even that utility won't operate correctly, you could always manually go into this folder path, access those files directly, and basically package them up yourself manually into a zip file by simply doing a shift or control select and then creating the zip file. All right, safe modes is another diagnostic trick, if you want to call it that, that we in support request a lot of use of from our customers. So looking at the main SOLIDWORKS Rx screen, at the very bottom, you'll see the options for the SOLIDWORKS safe modes. There's two different safe mode options available. Option 1 is to test for graphics card and driver issues. I mentioned before that the graphics card compatibility driver version is a very big issue within SOLIDWORKS. SOLIDWORKS has tested and certified specific hardware components with specific driver versions for specific versions of SOLIDWORKS. So there is a lot of variables that are being controlled there, and if any one of those isn't what SOLIDWORKS expects, then you could certainly run into some performance issues, some crashing issues, and possibly just some graphical quirkiness within the software itself. So to help us test for those situations, we have the SOLIDWORKS safe mode here that is indicated with the number 1 icon. That will basically launch SOLIDWORKS in what's called software OpenGL mode, and it basically bypasses your graphics card and driver completely, and it only uses the CPU for the graphical processing. This wouldn't by any means be a true fix to a graphical issue, but it will allow us to launch the software in OpenGL mode, test that the software itself actually works and that you can do whatever you were trying to do before that was causing a crash. And if you are able to perform that same task in OpenGL mode, then we've pretty much proven that there's something within your hardware or driver configuration that is restricting that from happening. And in most cases, it's just a matter of getting either your graphics card hardware upgraded to something that's compatible for SOLIDWORKS if by chance you're using an unsupported card, or just installing the latest and greatest driver available directly from SOLIDWORKS through that link mentioned previously on the Diagnostics tab. Again, I want to reiterate that that's not intended to be used for everyday SOLIDWORKS use. It's only going to be to launch SOLIDWORKS for the next time, and only for basically a diagnostic safe mode, only for troubleshooting purposes. The performance of the software itself, because it's not using a separate graphics GPU for processing, it's only relying on your CPU, that means that there's less processing power available for the other tasks within SOLIDWORKS and the other applications running on your computer. So the overall performance of SOLIDWORKS would be impacted, and you would definitely notice some sluggish behavior within the software. Looking at option 2 here, excuse me, option 2 allows us to test for issues with custom settings or add-ins. I'm sure everybody has SOLIDWORKS set up exactly how they want it, and they've got their templates set up, and they have all of their system options and user options defined and mapped exactly where they want them. But there's times where maybe you have accidentally turned on a checkbox within the system options not knowing what it was, or even by accident you were just looking through there and for some reason you got an extra mouse click someplace and turned on one of those checkboxes, which has now resulted in some undesired behavior within the software. Using the Safe Mode option 2 there to launch SOLIDWORKS while bypassing the tools and option settings will help us maybe pinpoint exactly what's going on there. If we can confirm that SOLIDWORKS can launch with all add-ins disabled and with basically the default generic tools or system options, then we can confirm that the software itself is probably okay. There's nothing wrong with your installation itself, and it was likely just an issue with one of those enabled settings. And we can kind of work backwards from there and maybe start resetting some of those various screens to default settings and things like that. So again, this wouldn't be something you would want to use every day to launch SOLIDWORKS, but in those rare cases that you are encountering some issues after possibly making some settings changes to the system options, we would want to go through this process to just verify that the software itself is not damaged in any way, and that the operation is likely being hindered by one of those setting changes. All right, going on to the next section here about knowledge base search links. So if you select the Troubleshooting tab there at the top of SOLIDWORKS Rx, you'll be presented with this 10 or 12 item list of various topics. And what those essentially are links to the SOLIDWORKS customer knowledge base. Now that is a feature that's hosted on the SOLIDWORKS customer portal. If any of you do not currently have a customer portal account, I would highly recommend creating one. They are free. They do not have any limit to the number of users. So if you're using part of a network license, it's not like only one person can have that customer portal account. Basically anybody at that company using that license has access. So I again would recommend creating a customer portal account because there's a ton of knowledge that can be learned there. And one of those things would be some of these troubleshooting topics here. So if you are having issues, let's say importing or exporting files, you could just select this hyperlink here. It'll take you straight into the customer portal to the knowledge base, and it will already filter out everything and only show you items related to importing and exporting. You could then do some additional filtering and searches to really hone in on exactly what you are having issues with. If it was specific to just step files that you're trying to import, then certainly you could search for the word step, and likely that will hone in a little bit further and get you a little bit closer to the answers that you need. I do want to note, though, that access to that section of the customer portal does require active subscription, so you would have to be actively on maintenance and paying your yearly renewals to have full access to, again, that section of the customer portal. All right, let's take a look at benchmark testing now. Benchmark testing is available under the add-in section of the SOLIDWORKS Rx interface. And what this utility will do is if you were having some ongoing issues with SOLIDWORKS where possibly you felt that it wasn't running as it should, it used to be faster, now it's not, or I have this brand new computer that's got top of the line specs, but SOLIDWORKS is running slower than it did on my 5-year-old computer, this is a great place to start. So the performance benchmark test tests both SOLIDWORKS and PhotoView 360 if you have PhotoView installed. And it basically opens up a standard model, spins it around, performs some geometry manipulations, adds some features, removes some things, creates a drawing. It just goes through a whole process of basically a simulated design workflow, and it does it very, very rapidly, very, very quickly, where you can barely even see what's going on the screen. But it does this multiple times, and then from that, it takes all of that time to data, averages that out, and then it presents you with some benchmark results. It's always recommended that you perform a fresh reboot of your system right before doing this, just to make sure that everything's cleared out of RAM and that there's no hanging or lingering background processes that might get in the way of that performance. And also close any other running applications that you can. Close down Outlook, close down everything you can, and possibly even disabling antivirus or something like that. That if you're on a domain and there's active updates being pushed out to your antivirus or anything like that, if possible, shut down any and all applications that might be running in the background, just to ensure that SOLIDWORKS has every available resource to use when going through these benchmark tests. The test typically takes about 15 to 30 minutes to perform. Again, this is very dependent on the speed of your computer, what is left running in the background, and a lot of other variables, but typically closer to the 15-minute mark on that for modern computers with some pretty decent specs. And the scores that you'll be presented with at the end are shown in seconds. So lower is better. You definitely don't want to have a higher number there where your computer took longer to create a task than somebody else's. And there's also the ability to compare your results online. So the data that's collected here doesn't get sent to SOLIDWORKS. This is only for your own knowledge and can be used as a starting point for troubleshooting issues on your computer. It's not going to tell you if anything's wrong, and it's not going to tell you how to fix anything if anything's wrong. All it's going to do is run through a few tests and then give you some numbers at the end. It's up to you then to compare those results with your peers online. So there is a place online where people report these numbers, and you can filter through and find somebody that has the exact same computer as you and say that I'm using an HP EliteBook 8570, so I want to filter down to just that computer with just the same amount of RAM and the same CPU that I have, and even maybe the same graphics card that I have, and see how my numbers compare to them. And if you can get that filtered down to, let's say, 10 users with identical hardware configurations as you, and yours is right in line with where their numbers are, then chances are SOLIDWORKS is fine, and maybe there might be something else going on your system that's slowing down the behavior as you begin to use the software more and more and more throughout the day, some RAM limitations or something like that. But of course you do find out that your numbers are double everybody else's, and that it took twice as long for the test to perform on your machine, then we might actually have something to go off of there. And we could start to look at exactly what might be causing that slowness. And that's where you would want to come to TriMech Technical Support to get some more answers and to help us, or let us help you delve into that problem a little bit deeper and hopefully discover the source. So let's go ahead and review real quick the topics that we've discussed. What is SOLIDWORKS Rx? We went through that. It's a utility to help you troubleshoot and diagnose issues with your computer and your SOLIDWORKS installation. We went through the diagnostics tab of the SOLIDWORKS Rx interface that basically gave you a listing of all of your hardware specs, RAM usage, and folder mappings within SOLIDWORKS, and indicated if there was any immediate issues with any of those items. We also reviewed the system maintenance, where you could delete temporary files from SOLIDWORKS, from Windows, as well as perform maintenance on your hard drive. We then went through the problem capture, where of course you can record a video and capture all of the background log files of an issue that you're experiencing with SOLIDWORKS, and then use that problem capture to allow TriMech to help you in troubleshooting it. So you would want to send that zip file over to us, let us know what's going on, and we can take it from there and start to help you a lot more effectively. We reviewed the log files, where they're located, which ones are in that folder, and what to do with them if for some reason SOLIDWORKS Rx is having issues packaging those up. You can always go into that folder, package those files up yourself, just select all of them, create a zip file, and then you can send that zip file over to us. Just let us know that Rx wasn't able to run, and then we can possibly use those same log files to try to figure out why Rx wouldn't run, as well as why SOLIDWORKS is having issues. We reviewed the available safe modes to open up SOLIDWORKS. Again, those options were to open it in software OpenGL mode to help troubleshoot driver and display issues with your graphics card. And the second option was to open SOLIDWORKS with system options and add-ins disabled, and that's to, again, try to help determine if a changed system option has created a problem within your SOLIDWORKS profile. We reviewed the knowledge base search links where you can access the customer portal section that incorporates customer-facing knowledge base, where there's a whole array of knowledge on various known issues. And chances are, if you're experiencing something within SOLIDWORKS, another user's probably been there before, and hopefully that has been reported in the knowledge base. And again, if you're on active subscription, you can go to the customer portal, access those links, and that'll give you a lot of information on what you can do to help troubleshoot it, or if it just is something that might need to come directly to TriMech technical support to assist. And lastly, we went through the benchmark testing, where you can push SOLIDWORKS through a whole array of performance tests, get your test scores, and then share and compare those metrics with your peers to help determine if there's an issue with your machine or if there might be something else going on in the background. Of course, if you have any questions or you are looking for some more information on any of these topics, you can go to the online help at help.solidworks.com. Or if you go to the help menu in SOLIDWORKS, there is a SOLIDWORKS help item available there that just pretty much takes you directly to that website. It might save you a little bit of time if you're in the software already. And you can also go to My SOLIDWORKS, which is my.solidworks.com. It's an extension of the SOLIDWORKS customer portal. You use your same login information there. And again, there's some forums, knowledge base articles, all kinds of information related to RX as well as SOLIDWORKS that might help you resolve some of the ongoing issues you may have. And lastly, don't forget that you do have the available option to call TriMech technical support or email us at support@trimech.com. If you do call, 888-874-6324, or that number is 888-TRIMECH. And we are here 7:30 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. and happy to answer any and all questions that you may have. Thank you for your time, everybody. Are there any questions?
All right, if you have any questions out there, now's the time to get them answered. Also, this webinar, as well as all of our webinars, are available on our YouTube channel. So you can go to our webpage, and at the upper right-hand corner there, you will find it. Just click on it, and all of our webinars are there. Also, other great tips and tricks, a bunch of other fun stuff, like how to create a Easter basket or an Easter egg and make it crack. If you haven't checked them out, you should. Alan, your presentation was so fabulous. There are no questions right now. Can you even believe that?
There you go.
All right, well, if you do have any questions for Alan, there is his contact information right there. Oh, hold on. Paul he wants to thank you. He is saying right now he hasn't had any issues with his SOLIDWORKS. Oh, that's wonderful to hear, Paul. We always like when everything is running smoothly, don't we?
There we go.
And our tech team is so wonderful. Seriously, when you have any questions, they will get them answered. And if they don't know the answer for you right then and there, they will do their research and they will find that answer and get right back to you. They are absolutely wonderful. Can I send it to you via email? I will see what I can do about that. like I said, you can always go to our website, trimec.com or trimexsolutions.com. Either one will get you there. Upper right-hand corner, you will find our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube accounts right there. And you can click on our YouTube account, and you can see all of our webinars and other fun little tips and tricks we put on there. But I will try to get that emailed out to you, Paul. No problem. Any other questions out there? All right, well, it doesn't look like. I just want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.